Hi, I'm John Fugit, and welcome to Other Minds. Here we explore communication, trust, and the art of understanding and being understood. I help individuals and couples build calmer, healthier relationships and navigate the challenges that shape their lives. In this series, Please Hear Me, Practical Tools for Couples, we'll explore simple, effective strategies to improve communication, reduce defensiveness, and strengthen your bond. In the first part of Please Hear Me, we talked about communication. We talked about left brain and right brain communication. We talked about aggressive, passive, passive aggressive, and assertive communication. We talked about the minefield metaphor, and we ended with the boardroom format, a structured way to talk about hard things without turning the relationship into a courtroom. But if you have ever tried to use a communication tool in the middle of a real conflict, you already know the next problem. Knowing the tool does not mean you can access the tool. You may know you should listen. You may know you should slow down. You may know you should say, "What I heard you say was." You may know you should not interrupt, defend, prosecute, diagnose, or bring in the last 10 years of evidence. And then the conversation gets hot, and suddenly all of that knowledge is gone. Not intellectually gone, you still know it somewhere, but it is no longer available in the moment. This is what this next part of Please Hear Me is about. It is about what happens to communication when emotion rises because communication is state dependent. A skill that is available when you are calm may become very hard to reach when you feel threatened, ashamed, cornered, dismissed, blamed, afraid, or alone. That does not mean the skill was fake, that you hadn't learned it. It means the emotional state changed what your mind and body were organizing around. When emotion gets intense, attention narrows. The meaning of the moment gets sharper. Memory starts supplying examples. The body prepares for action, and the future may start to feel obvious. The relationship can suddenly look much more damaged than it really is. Instead of seeing the whole person in front of you, you may see the one thing they are doing wrong. Instead of hearing a concern, you hear an accusation. Instead of noticing a misunderstanding, you feel an attack. Instead of remembering that this is one moment in a long relationship, the moment starts to feel like the whole truth. That is why couples have the same fight over and over. They do not just lack words, they lose access to the state in which better words are even possible. I want to be careful here. This is not about blaming emotion. Emotion is not the enemy of communication. Emotion is often the reason communication even matters. If you didn't care, you probably would not be that activated. If the relationship did not matter to you, the conversation might not feel so dangerous. If the issue did not touch something important, you might not react so strongly. The problem is not that emotion shows up. The problem is what can happen when one emotional state becomes the only available reality. Let me give you a simple example. Your partner says something like, "We need to talk." Now, those words are neutral on paper, but inside a relationship, they may not feel neutral at all. Depending on your history, your body may respond before you have consciously decided what the sentence even means. Your chest tightens, your stomach drops, your face gets hot. You start rehearsing your defense. You think, "Here we go," or "I can never do anything right," or "They're about to leave me," or "I am trapped here." Now, notice this. The sentence was, "We need to talk," but the emotional story may have become, "I am under attack." And once the story becomes about attack, the communication options really shrink. You may defend, you may withdraw, you may counterattack, you may try to end the conversation before it even starts, or you may agree too quickly just to get out of the feeling. This is why advice like just communicate is not enough. The harder question is, how do we recover enough capacity to communicate when the emotional system has already started organizing around protecting ourselves? That word matters, by the way, capacity. In this series, regulation will not mean becoming perfectly calm. Calm can be useful, but calm is not always the goal. Sometimes you need to be angry enough to tell the truth. Sometimes you need to be scared enough to take danger seriously. Sometimes grief, shame, jealousy, disappointment, or hurt are carrying real information. Regulation does not mean making those emotions disappear. It means staying organized enough that the emotion can be heard without being allowed to make every decision by itself. Regulation is what keeps communication available. It gives you enough room to ask, what am I feeling? What story has formed? What is this protecting? What else is true? What does this relationship need from me right now? And what can wait until I am more able to respond wisely? One quick note before we go further. This series is educational only. It is not a replacement for therapy, and it is not advice for situations involving intimidation, coercion, threats, or violence. If safety is the issue, communication tools are not enough. Please reach out to someone for real support. That is the bridge from part 1 to part 2. Part 1 gave us communication styles, modes, and tools. Part 2 asks why those tools disappear under pressure and how we can recover access to them. Because in relationships, the issue is rarely only the words. It is the state that the words are coming from. It is the state that the words create in the other person. And it is the pattern that forms between the two of you when both people are trying to protect themselves at the same time. This is also why both people matter. Your emotional state affects your partner. Your tone affects your partner. Your silence affects your partner. Your urgency affects your partner. Your withdrawal affects your partner. But that does not mean you control your partner's nervous system, and it does not mean you are responsible for managing every feeling they have. Relationships are interactive. What I bring into the room becomes part of what you have to respond to. What you bring into the room becomes part of what I have to respond to. That isn't control, it is influence, and influence is enough to matter. So in this next part of Please Hear Me, we are going to slow the process down. We are going to look at emotion not as something to defeat and not as something to obey without question, but as something to understand. We will look at how emotion carries information, how it creates stories, how it narrows attention, how it moves between partners, and how it can protect us, mislead us, or do both at the same time. And we're going to see how regulation can restore enough choice for real communication to become possible again. The next idea is central. Your emotion may be telling the truth, but it may not be telling the whole truth. That is where we will go next. If you want a simple roadmap for using this information in real life, download the free companion mini book and worksheet, Please Hear Me, Practical Tools for Couples. It includes practical prompts to help you slow the argument down, understand what's really happening, and begin repairing the conversation. The link is in the description below. If you find this type of information useful, like the video and subscribe to Other Minds for more practical tools on communication, trust, and repair. Thank you for listening to Other Minds. I'm John Fugit. So long until next time.